Hi, and welcome to the IDRC Recruiter 101 module. The Recruiter 101 module is a series of 7 lessons designed to teach you everything you need to know to prepare for your first day working out in the field. The lessons cover everything from what is a recruiter, to the rules governing eligibility of migrant students, to what you need to know to prepare to get out into the field, and what you should do when returning from the field to help plant the seeds for future success. Today's first lesson is called What Makes a Recruiter Great? Being a recruiter is a special job that often requires a wide variety of skills. This lesson looks at what it means to be a recruiter and the qualities that help make recruiters successful. Recruiters have an important job because they serve as the first contact between migrant families and the migrant education program. I have heard it described before that recruiters are like paramedics because they are the first ones to arrive on scene and assess a situation. They're the ones that show up, meet the family for the first time, and hear about the family's immediate needs. Recruiters are the eyes and ears of the migrant education program as they search through their communities and find the families and students who are eligible for MEP services. Recruiters are the ones that are out on the ground interacting with people in the community. They're the ones going door to door, meeting families, trying to see if anybody new has arrived. Now let's talk a little bit about what are the job responsibilities of a recruiter. The first responsibility of a recruiter is to have thorough knowledge of migrant education program eligibility guidelines. All rules and regulations governing the eligibility of students for the migrant education program are featured in a document called the Non-Regulatory Guidance, produced by the Federal Office of Migrant Education. It is the recruiter's responsibility to be familiar with this document, to read through it, to know the rules so that they can make proper decisions regarding student eligibility. The next responsibility of recruiters is to establish and maintain a recruitment network in their community. As we mentioned, recruiters are the eyes and ears of the migrant education program, and they are the ones working out in the towns, in the cities, in their communities, meeting people. It's important for recruiters to work to share the information about the migrant education program and to build up trust in their community so that when new families arrive, people will tell the recruiter and let them know. Recruiters have to work to build up, make those connections and work up that trust so it can make their job of finding new students easier. Recruiters also are responsible for locating the areas where migrant students and families live and work. Families that are moving into your area are moving in to work either in agriculture or in fishing, and it's up to the recruiter to do the research to find the information they need to know where people could possibly be employed, to know about the farms and agribusinesses in their area, as well as to know where migrant families that are moving in might be living. The next responsibility of recruiters is to conduct interviews to determine student eligibility. All information related to student eligibility is gained through verbal interviews. Recruiters have to have the skills needed in order to know the right questions to ask and how to talk to people in order to help get that information. Recruiters are also responsible for explaining the migrant education program and services offered by the program. When recruiters are out in the communities, they have to be able to explain and let people know what the migrant education program is. Families and students are not going to want to be enrolled in the program if they are not sure what the program is or what services they will be receiving when offered. It's the recruiter's responsibility to stay up to date, to know about what services are offered in the area and what's the latest happening with the migrant education program in their area. The next responsibility of recruiters is to fill out certificates of eligibility, or COEs, and collect all necessary student information. In order for a student to receive services for the migrant education program, they must have on file a completed certificate of eligibility. Their certificate of eligibility is the document that highlights why the student is eligible for the migrant education program. Recruiters are responsible for conducting those eligibility interviews, getting all the information they need, and properly filling out the certificate of eligibility to document why the student is enrolled in the program. Recruiters are also responsible for helping to implement state quality control procedures. Every year, states are required to conduct what are called re-interviews to guarantee and to verify that the correct decisions about eligibility are being made. It is up to the recruiter to help participate in those re-interviews and other quality control measures to make sure that the information collected is correct and that all recruiters are following proper guidelines when completing COEs and finding new students. Next, recruiters are also responsible for following ethical standards and confidentiality laws related to student information. A lot of the information collected by recruiters can be sensitive, and it is up to the recruiters to follow the proper laws to make sure that they are not sharing confidential student information with those that do not have access to it, as well as to make sure that they are following proper ethical standards in making sure that the information is true and correct. Now let's talk a little bit about what it takes to be a great recruiter. The first thing it takes to be a great recruiter is patience. It's important to note that very few recruiters are great immediately on the first day on the job. It can take time and patience for recruiters to build their recruitment network and establish trust in their communities. The Federal Office of Migrant Education, or OME, in their National Identification and Recruitment Manual states that it may take up to 3 years for recruiters to fully learn their job and become great. It's important for recruiters to have patience so that they can stick with the job, continue even when things are difficult, so that they can learn what they need to learn to grow and to work to become great. The next characteristic of what it takes to be a great recruiter is persistence. Recruiters must be able to work independently. While supervisors may initially help point recruiters in the right direction, recruiters need to be able to know their communities, establish work priorities, and create their own work plans. Recruiters must be able to work by themselves to figure out what exactly it is that they need to do to maximize their efforts in their communities and find as many students as possible. Similarly, recruiters must be able to work in the field alone and to motivate themselves to keep doing everything they can to locate migrant students and their families. Oftentimes, recruiters will be asked to drive to new places, to explore, and to come back all by themselves. And so recruiters have to be able to find that drive to continue to work hard, to do everything that they need to do to find as many students as possible. The next characteristics of a great recruiter is knowledge of guidelines. As we mentioned earlier, it's a responsibility of a recruiter to be familiar with eligibility guidelines, but real great recruiters know the eligibility guidelines in and out. The rules that determine eligibility are outlined in the non-regulatory guidance issued by OME. And all recruiters must familiarize themselves with these guidelines in order to properly understand the requirements for the migrant education program. Recruiters should use practice eligibility scenarios available on the IDRC website, or if you would like more practice eligibility scenarios, you can ask your supervisor to help you out so that you can test your knowledge and put your skills to the test in using the eligibility guidelines. Practice scenarios are one of the great ways to be able to take your knowledge and use it in a practical sense so you can see how to make the right decisions while working out in the field. Likewise, all recruiters should regularly review the non-regulatory guidance in order to maintain their knowledge. We recommend that recruiters reread through the guidance every 3 to 4 months to make sure that their skills and knowledge are sharp. And now a tip from a recruiter just like yourself. A recruiter from Arkansas says that knowing your guidelines so that you are able to educate others, such as farmers, doctors' offices, schools, migrant Head Start programs, about the migrant education program is critical. The more that others are able to understand the program, understand who might be eligible for the program, the more that they will be able to help you with recruitment. It's important for recruiters to know the eligibility guidelines and to be able to explain what the migrant education program is so that others in the community will buy into the program, understand why you're there, and want to give you as much information as possible. The next quality of a great recruiter is time management. Time management is critical for helping recruiters to locate potential migrant students out in the field. Migrant farm workers rarely maintain regular work schedules, and recruiters must be able to make the most of their time and resources to ensure they are meeting migrant students and their families when they are available. Recruiters can have a lot of different things they're doing when working out in the field. They have a lot of places they can go and visit. And it's critical that recruiters are able to manage and plan out their time so that they are doing the right activities, visiting the right locations, speaking to the right people at the right time. Recruiters are wanting to visit farms and agribusinesses while they're open and working, while people are there, so that they can make sure that they are talking to the right workers, to the right people. And likewise, it's important that recruiters manage their time so that they can guarantee that they're talking to families when families are home. The next characteristic of a great recruiter is keeping an open mind. Migrant families and students can be found anywhere within their community. Recruiters must never make assumptions about who a migrant family is, and they must maintain an open mind to ensure that they are being as thorough as possible while working out in the field. There is no one definition for who is a migrant student. Migrant students can come from very diverse cultural and socioeconomic backgrounds, and so it's important for recruiters to have an open mind so that they are looking in all places so that they can find all the students in their area. And the next quality of a great recruiter is having an adventurous spirit. To be as effective as possible in the field, recruiters have to be thorough. Recruiters must explore as much of their community as possible, and they must be willing to go places they are unfamiliar with and to speak to as many people as possible. You never know where or when you might locate a potentially eligible student or their family. Recruiters have to be like Indiana Jones, willing to go out and explore in order to find those students. Oftentimes, we'll have to go talk to people we don't know, visit towns or cities that we might not know as well as to go and visit farms that we've never been to before. And so recruiters can't be afraid. They have to be able to have that spirit to explore, to go new places and find uncharted territory. Next, a great recruiter must be good at conducting research. Recruiters must stay up to date with all information on what is happening agriculturally in their area and with what is going on in their community. Research skills are essential for helping recruiters to understand exactly what's going on. As we mentioned, recruiters have to be able to find and locate the area where migrant students live and work, and conducting research is critical to that. And so recruiters that are great are able to take all the information they have, collect the data, and know exactly where they need to go to find new data. Recruiters should be able to use Google as well as other internet resources to conduct thorough research about their assigned areas. There are many different resources available to recruiters, and it's important for recruiters to know how to take advantage to all the information and sources they have so that they can be well informed. The next quality of a great recruiter is organization. Recruiters can encounter many people and a lot of information while working in the field. Organizational skills help recruiters to sort through the data they collect and properly identify their work priorities and maintain their identification and recruitment network. It is important for recruiters to be able to take what they have learned while researching the area, while out in the field to prioritize their tasks and to create proper work plans for being in the field. Recruiters have to be great at sorting through the data they collect and keeping track of the data they collect so that they can make sure that nothing falls through the cracks. The migrant education program in agriculture moves quick. Migrant families may only be arriving for a few weeks before they move off to go to a new place for a new crop. And so it's important that recruiters are able to collect their information, keep track of the information in the leads they get that might lead them to potential families, organize it, prioritize it, and then act upon it quickly so that they can make sure that they are not missing any potential students out in the field. Now, another tip from a recruiter. A recruiter from Arkansas says that getting a car seat organizer with lots of pockets and hooks and putting it in the front passenger seat is very helpful for helping you to stay organized. It will keep all your tools for working out in the field, such as pens, staplers, tape, paper clips, masks, disposable gloves, your business cards, flyers that you can hang on doors, brochures, hand wipes, sunscreen, and more, handy and ready to grab whenever you need it. The next quality of a great recruiter is flexibility. A recruiter's plans rarely go exactly as expected while working in the field. It's important that all recruiters are able to be flexible in their plans while out in the field and to be able to make adjustments as needed. Recruiters should always have backup ideas of what they can do in the field if their initial plans fall through. Recruiters never know when a farm worker or student might be eligible, and they must be flexible enough to meet with them on their time. As we mentioned, farm workers and migrant students often don't have fixed schedules. There's times when farm workers are leaving very early in the morning to go out into the field, and sometimes it's necessary for recruiters to meet them then. Likewise, sometimes farm workers are returning back home really late at night, and so recruiters have to be available to meet them when they're returning from work as well. It's important for recruiters to be available, to be flexible about when they can meet with families so that they can guarantee that they are talking to everybody that they need to talk to in their community to find as many students as possible. Likewise, as we mentioned, plans don't always go the way we want them to. And so it's important to have those backup options so that if something falls through, if there's a time in your day where you are wanting to visit a farm, but maybe it rains, and so nobody is out working and you need something new to do, that you have those backup options. So you're always maximizing your time. We recommend that every recruiter, when they're creating their daily plan, going out into the field, have a backup of at least 5 or 6 different options that they can choose from in case other plans fall through. The next quality of a great recruiter is interview skills. As we talked about, interviewing is important and critical for the migrant education program. In order to identify a potential student for the migrant education program, a recruiter must first conduct an interview either with the student or a family member in order to obtain the necessary information to make an eligibility determination. It is critical that recruiters maintain these interview skills and techniques to ensure that they are able to obtain all required information and properly verify that a student meets all eligibility requirements. Similarly, it's critical that recruiters have interview skills so that when they're out in the community meeting people that might be able to point them in the right direction for new students, such as farm contractors, farm owners, maybe store owners that work regularly with migrant families, that they're able to have the interview skills in order to talk to them, to gain that information so that it can point them to where students might be. Recruiters need to practice and maintain these skills, whether that's working and practicing out in the field or connecting with fellow recruiters to role play and practice out scenarios. If you need help with your interview skills, you can ask a fellow with you. One of you can take turns. One person can be a potential migrant student. The other person can be the recruiter, and you can conduct a mock interview. Similarly, you can change the scenarios. One person can be a farm owner while you're the recruiter, and you can practice having a conversation so that when you're out in the field, you'll be ready. Now, another tip from a recruiter. The recruiter from Arkansas says that it is better to dress down instead of being overdressed for interviews. You do not want to intimidate the person you are talking to or create suspicion. Sometimes among populations such as undocumented immigrants, migrant students and their families, being too dressed can be very intimidating, or it can create suspicion and have people asking while you're there. It's important that you dress business casual so that you are more likely to be able to have and maintain comfortable conversations with people while working out in the field. The last quality it takes to be a great recruiter is boundaries. All recruiters want to help migrant families and students as much as they can. Recruiters often want to go above and beyond to help the people in their communities as much as possible. However, it is important for recruiters to understand their job and to establish boundaries while out in the field. Recruiters can easily get burnt out and fatigued if they do not maintain boundaries on the job. Recruiters should work to know their limits so they can identify when a family or student needs additional help they may not be able to provide. It's important for recruiters not to take too much upon themselves, to be able to delegate and refer families to other services when possible, and to be able to place those limits with work so that they're not overworking themselves and doing too much. Now it's time for an activity and a little self-reflection. Go to the activity in the Recruiting 101, Lesson 1 page of your workbook and answer the following questions. Take the time to think about each question before writing your answer. Number 1, what qualities do you possess that you think will make you a great recruiter? Number 2, what are some ways that you can grow and become a better recruiter? And number 3, it's so important for recruiters to be able to properly explain the migrant education program. So in your own words, write down what you think and feel is the role that recruiters play in the migrant education program. Thank you so much for going through Lesson 1 of the Recruiting 101 module. To continue learning, read Chapter 2, the MEP Recruiter, in the National IDNR Manual produced by OME, located on the OME results.ed.gov website. You can also take the What Makes a Recruiter mini quiz produced by IDRC to test your knowledge gained during this lesson. When complete, you can continue on in the Recruiting 101 module and go to Lesson 2, Resources Available to Recruiters.